The Ammonites form a fascinating part of ancient history, and to understand who they were, it is vital to comprehend their genealogical roots. Originating from Ben-Ami, who was the son of Lot with his younger daughter, the Ammonites shared a bond with the Israelites. This special tie stems from the fact that Lot was the nephew of Abraham, who is widely recognized as the foundational patriarch of the Israelite people. If you are interested in biblical history, you will find it intriguing to learn more about the Ammonites, who occupy a notable space in the pages of the Old Testament. But before delving into their history, I encourage you to keep notifications active so that you don't miss any of our videos. After the Israelites left Egypt, God instructed them to treat the Ammonites with benevolence and understanding. This divine decree is documented in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 18 and 19. In it, the Israelites are warned that when they approach the land of the Ammonites, they must do so peacefully. God expressly mentioned that this land would not be for the Israelites, as it had already been designated for the descendants of Lot. Through biblical narratives, we discover that the Ammonites eventually took possession of lands previously inhabited by the Rephanes, whom the Ammonites referred to by the same name. This region was located northeast of Moab, flanked by the rivers Arnon and Jabbok. It is interesting to note that the Moabites, inhabitants of Moab, and the Ammonites had a fraternal relationship, as Moab was also a descendant of Lot. The territory of the Ammonites was reinforced with impressive fortifications. And although at first, God had instructed the Israelites not to engage in conflict with the Ammonites, biblical history shows that there were several occasions when tensions and disagreements arose between these two closely related peoples. Throughout the Bible, we encounter various nations that at different times acted against God's chosen people, the Israelites. One of these nations was the Ammonites. Although they shared family roots with the Israelites due to their descent from Lot, in many biblical episodes, they are presented as antagonists of Israel. Following divine directions, during the period of the Exodus, the Israelites avoided confrontations with the Ammonites. However, this feeling of non-aggression was not mutual. Both the Ammonites and the Moabites showed disdain towards the Israelites when the latter were crossing the desert in their exodus. Moreover, there are biblical evidences that the Ammonites, along with the Midianites, conspired with Balak, the king of Moab. This coalition hired Balaam with the intention of cursing the Israelites. But their intentions were thwarted. God not only rejected the curse, but turned it into a blessing for his people. Because of this and other acts of hostility, it was decreed that the Ammonites and the Moabites would not be admitted into the Israelite congregation for 10 generations. The hostility of the Ammonites against Israel did not end there. During the period of the judges in Israel, the Ammonites forged alliances with other peoples, such as the Amalekites and Moabites, with the purpose of subjugating Israel. This oppression lasted 18 years, culminating when Ehud assassinated Eglon, the king of Moab. But in a dramatic turn of events, the Israelites diverted their faith and began to worship other gods, including the Ammonite deities. They abandoned Yahweh, and as a result, the Ammonites took advantage of the situation and launched an invasion on Israel, causing great suffering. It was only when God raised up Jephthah as a leader and liberator that this oppression came to an end. However, the tension with the Ammonites persisted. During the reign of Saul, shortly after being crowned king of Israel, he faced and repelled the Ammonites who had besieged Jabesh Gilead. Nevertheless, at a later time, Nahash, an Ammonite, is mentioned as a friend of David. This unexpected friendship might have been forged during the time David was fleeing from Saul. The relationship between Israel and Ammon, as can be seen, was full of ups and downs, oscillating between hostility and alliance. After the death of Nahash, the political landscape in the region underwent a significant change. Hanan, son of Nahash, assumed the throne, and breaking with the previous friendship, chose to challenge David, king of Israel. Showing open hostility, Hanan not only insulted David's envoys but also took belligerent measures by recruiting a vast army of Syrian warriors to face the Israelites. However, this attempt to challenge David and his army resulted in failure for the Ammonites. David, realizing the threat, quickly sent his army, led by Joab and Abishai, who managed to defeat the Ammonites. This victory led the Israelites to take control of Rabbah, the Ammonite capital. Despite these military tensions, it is fascinating to note that some Ammonites still maintained friendly ties with David. Shammah, an Ammonite, stood out among the valiant men who served David. And when David found himself in danger, and had to flee from his son Absalom, another descendant of Nahash offered him help. The entanglement with the Ammonites continued during the reign of Solomon, David's successor. Solomon, known for his many amorous relationships, had among his wives Ammonite women. Indeed, Naamah, an Ammonite, became the mother of Rehoboam, the next king of Israel. However, the influence of these women led Solomon down dangerous paths. To please his wives, the king began to venerate gods foreign to Israelite monotheism. One of these gods was Milcom or Molech, the principal deity of the Ammonites. Solomon built altars for these foreign gods, and these sanctuaries were only demolished during the religious reforms of King Josiah. In the times of King Jehoshaphat, a coalition composed of Ammonites, Moabites, and Edomites attempted to invade Judah. But in a divine twist, it is said that God intervened, sowing confusion among them, which resulted in them attacking each other. In subsequent episodes, descendants of an Ammonite woman plotted and executed the assassination of Joash, king of Judah. Although in certain periods, such as during the reigns of Uzziah and Jotham, the Ammonites paid tribute to Judah, on other occasions, they aligned with foreign invaders to challenge Judah. The actions of the Ammonites led prophets like Ezekiel to prophesy divine judgments against them, highlighting the tensions and conflicts between these two nations over time. The Bible meticulously narrates the tense and conflict-ridden relationship between the Ammonites and the people of Israel. The Ammonites had moments where they mocked and celebrated the misfortune of Israel, specifically when the sacred sanctuary was desecrated, the land of Israel suffered devastations, and the house of Judah was taken into captivity. God, seeing this attitude of the Ammonites, proclaimed a vigorous judgment upon them. The vision presented in the scriptures indicates that the Ammonite territory would be given to the peoples of the east. These tribes would establish their camps and dwellings there, taking advantage of their resources, consuming their fruits, and drinking their milk. The city of Rabbah, an important Ammonite city, would turn into a place for camels, while the Ammonites themselves would become a place for flocks. These predictions were not mere warnings, they were an affirmation of God's authority and power. Through these actions, it would be evident to the Ammonites that the God of Israel was the true Lord. The behavior of the Ammonites was especially reproached, for with gestures and attitudes, they openly manifested their joy and contempt towards the misfortunes of Israel. In the face of such behavior, God declared that He would deliver them to other nations, that they would be plucked from among the peoples and would disappear from the lands. This divine decision had a clear purpose, that the Ammonites would recognize the supremacy of God. Even after the period in which Israel was captive in Babylon, the Ammonites did not cease in their attempts to oppose and cause problems for the Jews. Their antagonism was evidenced in actions like those of Sanballat and Tobiah, who tried to stop Nehemiah in his mission of reconstruction. Interestingly, Tobiah was the governor of Ammon. Despite these tensions, there were Jews who opted for mixed marriages with Ammonite women, a practice that was the subject of criticism and disapproval. However, records indicate that the Ammonites continued to exist at least until the 2nd century BC. It is believed that the influence of the house of Tobiah persisted in Ammon during that period, with mentions in inscriptions and apocryphal works of the time. A notable example is the confrontation of Judas Maccabeus against a powerful Ammonite army. I hope you have found it valuable to learn more about the Ammonites in the Bible. I invite you to share your reflections, and to share this knowledge with your loved ones, family, and friends. Until our next adventure, and may God bless you.